Hi, my name is Michael Rhodes, and today I'm talking on a subject: there is nothing outside self. And I think that probably I say this statement at all the intensives and retreats I've done around the world for a good many years. And a lot of people say to me, what on earth does that mean, nothing outside self? And it's sort of one of those that you can't really explain until you're ready for the explanation. If you're in the very stages of believing that you are a body personality that has a soul, then, and you know, you talk about my soul like as if it's one of your shoes, then it might be difficult to comprehend. But if you're into your spirituality and you're beginning to relook at self as the identity self and the metaphysical self, then you'll begin to get this, what this actually means. And so identity self clings to its identity. And it's very fascinating this. When we die, every time the body dies, there is the opportunity to allow identity to die with the body. Because identity tends to cling to an identification. An identification is the face. If you wear a mask, you're going to rob a bank, you wear a mask so you can't be identified. And it tends to cling to its name. And so it also clings to a personality to a degree. And so when we go through the process of the body dies, identification is wiped out. And yet the ego tends to cling to the need of identification. And a very, very unevolved person will cling to their personality because they identify with their personality, and they will bring it back again. And in their next incarnation, it will be a very, very similar personality, which will have a lot of similarities. The parents will have to be similar to the last time with the same sort of problems and the same set of circumstances, and so they continue, and identity continue to cling. And so we have this great identification, and now of course you'll have to be put on driving licenses and identity cards, etc., etc. So there's a lot of focus on identity, and identity is complete illusion. We are not identities. So if you are more evolved and there's a death of the body, there is the opportunity in that moment to release identity. And then you change everything. Everything changes. Now, the process of enlightenment basically is the death of identity. And so my sense of self, when I went through that process, identity died. And I was really aware that identity had died and that I was not the identity. And so identity died in that moment. So I can continue on in life. But if I'm walking into a country, let's say I'm going to Switzerland, and they stop me at the airport, and who am I? And if I say to them, I am a magnificent, metaphysical, multidimensional, eternal being of love and light, they would probably say to me, oh good, we've got a little room for people like you, and I wouldn't get any further than that into Switzerland. So instead of that, I give them an identity, and they're completely happy, because everybody's got an identity. So we're encouraged to never tell the truth and always identify with the illusion. And that's really what's happening. And so what does it mean, nothing outside self? Self is the state of consciousness that we are. And if you look around you, you'll probably see other people. Where is the line where you end and they begin? And so there isn't one. And so every human being, there is nothing outside of self. There is nothing outside them. Every human being is self. This is not self, the identity. This is self, the immortal, eternal energy. This is self, the state of consciousness. A lot of people like the idea of communicating with nature. So if I, for instance, go and sit out in nature and I sit under a tree and I release my sense of identity. I release my sense of self as an identity, and I expand my sense of self as pure consciousness. And so I consciously embrace the whole tree and the love and light of self, that self is now the tree. I'm no longer expressing through a body identity, I'm expressing through a physical body tree. And so the tree and I can communicate. And it won't be a communication that is based on the identity. For instance, when you sit with a tree or any plant, and for me, one of the most powerful plants I've encountered is moss. The energy and consciousness of moss is amazing, absolutely amazing. Such a tiny prostate plant, and yet such an amazing energy. But if I identify with them, then I am identifying with not just a little piece of moss in a place. I'm connecting with moss all over the planet, because moss knows nothing of separation, the same as trees know nothing of separation. And so if I'm sitting with them communicating, how do I know I'm not thinking to myself? And the easy criteria is when I begin to receive things that I had no idea of. I did not know. I did not have that information. I did not have that knowledge, because I just didn't have that. And so then you begin to realize that there is something happening. And what is happening? We externalize our thoughts. Thoughts come from us and move out, all the time moving outwards on a trajectory. We're projecting thought, but if you become silent, then thought is no longer being projected from you, and yet the energetic aspect of ourselves that creates thoughts, instead of putting them out, now becomes receptive. And so the energy of a tree or moss can move into our thought energy, we'll call it, and form words that make sense to us, and becomes a form of communication that can teach us things we didn't know, because we realize that there is nothing outside self. Generally today, if I need to know something, I focus on it. Need is the key word here. I do not want, need. I focus on it and release it. And generally within 12 hours, I know. It just emerges. It doesn't come from a tree or moss. It just emerges from the universe into my aware consciousness. We have to live within our limitations. I am not a clever intellectual. I'm not an academic. I left school at 14, so I do not have a vast criteria of scientific and academic knowledge through which this comes. And so my communication with nature is reasonably simple. I've written enough books sharing it, but that simplicity seems to touch a chord in many, many people. For instance, when I wrote Talking with Nature, it became a bestseller, and it's still being sold 40 years later. It's still in print with the original publisher. And so you begin to realize that nothing outside self, when you embody that, when you embrace that, when it becomes your reality, then there is nothing that you're separate from. And so you don't speak badly to people, because that's who you are, that's you. You don't think badly of people, because that is you. And how you think about other people affects your own life. If you constantly have bad thoughts and attack thoughts about other people, then you have bad and attack thoughts about yourself, because there are no other people. There is nothing outside self. And this includes all nature. It actually includes the planet. It actually includes our solar system. But we'll leave it there. We could keep going bigger, but that, for most people, the mind begins to can't deal with that. And so we are universal beings. We're connected to the universe, and we've denied those connections for a long, long time. And on this plane of existence, there is a limit to how far we can lift our vibration. Just the same as we move up to fifth, sixth, and then seventh, eighth dimension, our ability to lift ourselves will go far beyond anything we can do here. But, however, here we can lift ourselves to an amazing extent and have some remarkable experiences of life where there is no limit to self, where there is nothing outside of self. You need to, maybe I was going to say you need to think about that. Actually, you don't need to think about it. You need to feel into it. Sometime when this is finished and you're at home, just feel into it. There's nothing outside self. So my body is just an illusion, a game I play with. Basically, yes, but it's also sacred, and it should be treated with the deepest respect you can engender. I have the deepest respect and love for this body. It's not who I am, but it is mine. And so I treat it with deep respect and appreciation. I love this body. And I regularly tell this body that every cell is loved. There's nothing of my body I don't love. Even the hair that I don't have on my head. None of it is judged. If I could have hair on my head, I probably would. Because in the summer, it stops me from getting sun scorched. And in the winter, it keeps my skull warm. That's why it's there. But there's no judgment or criticism of me the way I am. I love and accept this body. And for that probably more reason more than any other, this body is a wonderful body. Its sense of its recovery, its ability to recover is remarkable. You go and hug a stinging tree and get a whole bunch of leaves and it doesn't do you any good. And yet this body recovered remarkably fast from that. And I've got nothing but praise for it. And so nothing outside self. Move it from a concept to a reality. Practice tomorrow as you walk around and you look outside. Everything you see is you, a different reflection of you. Every person is a different reflection of you. Would you treat them to a tirade of self-attack? Probably not. They might punch you back. But the tragedy is, if you have that self-attack in you, you will punish yourself for it. And this is how we live life. Attack ourselves and then punish. It doesn't work. You are humanity. You are the world. You are all nature. You are all love. You are all light. You have the potential of gods and goddesses. All you have to do to bring this together, actually and truly, is to consciously choose love.